I am Clover Partners and Roast Scout, and I'm excited to be here today. Also, I'm excited because my daughter is with me today. Evelyn, raise your hand. Fall break. It's awesome. She loves to come when she doesn't have school, so it's awesome. So we're going to get right into it this morning. I want to introduce to you Hannah, and she's going to come up. Hannah owns Sweet Yield Studio, so let's hear it for Sweet Yield Studio. She's going to read the Creative Mornings Manifesto, and then we're going to get into sponsors, and then we're going to get into what you guys are actually here for. So here you go.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
I am Hannah. I'm a business educator and owner of Sweet Yield Studio, and Sweet Yield is a creativity and movement studio. So we offer dance, creativity, and fitness classes for kids and adults. And this is kind of a full circle moment for me, you guys being here at Creative Mornings. My past life is design and advertising and still do branding work, but it's really fun to see a lot of old familiar faces and new faces in our space too. Evelyn is here, so I'm going to edit one little word because my teacher heart just can't handle it. I'm still a teacher at heart. Hey, let's do this thing. Creative Mornings Manifesto. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a dang. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
So we have some people to thank this morning. So for the coffee, Killer Coffee, if you like the coffee or drinking coffee, give it up for Killer. It's always great to have you on board. Chris Fox for pouring drinks, right? All right. And what? And donuts. And the sound system. Wow, it just keeps going. So basically, Chris is awesome. Give him a high five on the way out. This is the same. This is you, right? Okay, there you go. Still Chris. Yay! Rise Co-working, which is awesome. If you haven't been out to Rise Co-working and more, the space is fantastic. I think you would love it. So if you need a space to office for the day or for the month or forever, you can go out there. And then thanks for being here today. This is awesome. I love seeing everybody. It's one of my favorite mornings of the month. So without further ado, I'm not going to give a big long introduction because he can talk about himself. Jabee, you want to come up and tell us what you got to say?
Yeah, I'm just going to get into it too. I came to one Creative Mornings, the one you all had at Oklahoma Shirt Company. And I just kind of, the day before that, I was with Justin, and he was like, yeah, come over and check it out. And so I went, and I kind of walked in the middle, and didn't really know what was going on and what it was, but I think Naoma spoke. Is she here? Did I see her? Come in, yeah. So Naoma was speaking, I was like, that's cool. I was like, you know, I'm definitely not as creative as she is, I feel like. And so I just remember thinking to myself, like, I gotta come check this out and meet these, you know, these people. And then I missed the next one. And I think her name's Mel. She emailed me, or MySpace. What's the other one called? What's the other one called? Instagram. See, everybody thinks I'm so cool. I'm always nervous now. So. But so Instagram, and she was like, the theme is flow, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna rap. So she was like, no, don't rap. She was like, you know, talk about your flow, and I was like, what do you mean? You know, and she was like, well. She gave me some examples and some ideas, and she said that I could talk about how the flow of my life influences my music, and you know how that has helped me, how my life has helped me to be creative, and so that's what I'm gonna do. Is that cool? Yeah. All right. I wasn't sure if like this was like a Christian group, or if I should like, if I should preach, or if I can cuss. You know what I'm saying? So. Okay. All right, so all right, we can go to the, okay, so we got flow. So when I was thinking about the flow of my life, there are four things in my life that I want to use. Can you go to the next one? The next one, sorry. Okay, so flow, the action or fact of moving along in a steady, continuous stream. And I was, thinking about that, and I was like, well, there are four things that have been steady and continuous in my life, and childhood, women is one, death is another one, and community. So those things have been like a constant flow in my life, and that's what I'm gonna talk about. You can go to the next one. So the first one is childhood, obviously, and I'm gonna hit these 4 points. Oklahoma City is where I'm from. To me, it's the greatest place on earth. Growing up, we moved around a lot, so I lived all over the city. But for the most part, we were always on the east side, and we would always come back to the east side whenever we moved around too. My grandparents were a big influence in the flow of my life, and my mother. So you can go to the next one. And so this was my first album, But It's the New Black. It came out in 2008. And basically everything that I mentioned just then, Oklahoma City, the east side, my grandparents, my mother were all influenced and inspired this album. So that's why it's called Blood Is the New Black, because, whenever we think about, blood, we think about, being related to something. Like, I know, like, you might say, like, that's my blood, so that's what that's for. So you can go to the next joint. So this is us. Like I said, we lived all over Oklahoma City. Growing up, I didn't realize it until maybe 2 years ago when I was doing an interview that I actually went to 11 OKC public schools growing up. We moved around that much, And so when I say when I lived all over the city, like I pretty much went to almost every school in Oklahoma City, and you can go to the next joint. But like I said, we always were on the east side. Both of my great grandparents lived on the east side. And so this is me and my sister on the east side of Oklahoma City whenever I was a kid. So my grandparents, one lived on 15th Street and the other lived on 16th Street. And their houses were, the backyards of their houses were connected. So it was my mom's grandmother on one side and then my dad's grandmother on the other side. And like, I would mow one yard and then hop the fence and mow the other yard. So yeah, you can go to the next joint. Which brings me to my mother. She was a kid whenever she had us. This is her about the time that she started having children. I believe she got pregnant with my oldest sister when she was around 13 or 14. She left my father whenever I was 10, and she left with nothing. Like, we were legit homeless whenever she left, but she left because, she didn't want us to see the things we were seeing at the house. And, we would literally like sleep in the car, wake up and go to school the next morning, I remember at that time, whenever she left, she ended up getting like 2 more jobs so that she could, help take care of us. She would work at her job in the day, and then at nighttime she was cleaning buildings. On the weekends she was doing hair. Like, she was always working. And this is about that time whenever all that was happening. Excuse me. You can go to the next joint. So which brings us to, my mother kind of brings us to the next flow of my life, which is women. She's a woman, so. And real quick before you go, like, just a little bit about my mom. Like, she was, like, I always talk about how black she is, because, she makes sure that, we really appreciated, who we were as people, and, our heritage and our culture, and she always prepared us for some of the things we would deal with being black, you know, growing up. You know, I mean, she was so black. My mom was so black. Like she wouldn't allow us to pick cotton out of aspirin bottles. That's how black she was. You know what I'm saying? So, for real. So yeah, so she was. I mean, like she was really about it. So, you know, when I think about women, like, you know, she really taught me how, you know, to love women, appreciate women, and to be a man. You know, so you can go to the next one, which brings us to, you know, the women in my life. The first girl I ever remember, like, having like a real encounter with, I was 12 years old, and I was at Hoover Middle School, and it was this girl named Stephanie. and I liked her, and you know, I was like, man, like, you know, I'm gonna tell her. I don't know what y'all used to say whenever I was in school. We would say, you know, will you go with me? You know, so I was like, I wanted to see her and be like, yo, Stephanie, will you go with me? And this is the time, like, I remember like feeling like, you know, my looks mattered and stuff, because whenever I went to Hoover, that was 7th grade. Before that, I was at Moon on the east side. And on the east side, anybody ever went to Moon? I doubt it, but at Moon, like, we were all the same. We were all poor. None of us had nothing, so we all looked the same. Whenever I got to Hoover in middle school, it was like a culture shock, because I seen kids who had jewelry on. I remember that's when I first realized, like, what name brands were. Like, all the scuffles and things I got into at Hoover were because of things like that, you know. I remember being in class, and I had a bad haircut, so I'm wearing a hoodie and trying to keep my head covered. Well, of course, he's just not gonna allow that, you know. And she's like, take off your hoodie, and I'm like, nah. And the kid behind me snatched my hood off, you know, and everybody saw my hair and started laughing. So that was like the first real scuffle I ever got into. But Stephanie was there, and so I remember she had a gym class, and I was going to gym class when she was leaving gym class. And so my plan was, whenever we met up, to say, Stephanie, will you go with me? You know? And so I walk up to her, and she's with a couple of her friends. And before I could say anything, she just looks at me and goes, "Oh, you ugly." And so I just pretended like I didn't hear her and kept walking. And I mean, and it obviously stuck with me. I'm a grown man. I'm still talking about it. But so I wrote this song called Stephanie, and basically, and this is an idea I had of me in the dinosaur suit and her calling me ugly. And I chose the costume because, you know, as a kid, that's how I felt. Like, you know, I was a monster, you know what I mean? And so, so I had, you know, that idea of like me in a costume and like her seeing that monster and calling him ugly. And so, so I wrote that song called Stephanie. And the funny thing is when I got to high school, my freshman year, Stephanie was there. And I had seen her in 7th grade. I didn't see her again until freshman year in high school. I guess I moved around a lot. And I remember her, I had borrowed my cousin's clothes to wear, because we always shared clothes. And I remember walking in class, and Stephanie seeing me and go, "Oh, Jabee, you fresh today." And I remember thinking, like, man, I've been fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like I was fresh in 7th grade. You just didn't know. So the song is really about you know, me like understanding, like, you know, appreciating myself, but also saying things I wish I could have said or I had known to a way to respond to how I felt back then. And the funny thing is years later, the song came out in 2013. I want to say maybe 2015. I'm on Facebook, and I hadn't talked to Stephanie or seen her. I'm on Facebook, and I get tagged, and it was Stephanie, and I hadn't seen her since like high school. And she's like, "Oh my God, there's a guy I went to school with. He just won an Emmy. He's this and that." And I'm thinking, what? Like, I'm just like, I'm tripping. So I messaged her, and I sent her the cover. I sent her the cover, I sent her the video, I sent her the lyrics, everything. And the crazy thing is, we ended up talking and meeting up one day, and her first response was like, "Dang, you made me sound like I was a bitch." And I was like, yeah. But whenever the crazy thing is that whenever we met up that day, whenever we met up, we talked, and she was telling me about how she was experiencing some of the same things in school. You know what I mean? And it just made me think, like, that's probably why she was acting the way she was, because she was kind of probably going through the same things as I was. So you can go to the next. Oh, and then we have Liz. So yeah, Liz, you can go to the next one. So this is my friend Liz CHATMAN. She was my prom date, and Liz was my baby. Like, I remember the first time I saw her. I was at Northwest Classen. I believe it was my sophomore year. She was a freshman, and I was in an art class, and I looked out the window to the courtyard and saw her down there, and I was thinking, man, that girl is dope, And she's important because, one, she was fast, and so anybody know y'all know what fast means? Okay, so my mom always used to say, don't you talk to none of these fast ass girls. So fast is like a girl who was like doing a lot, like she was active. You know what I'm saying? And so, but Liz was really fast, and she went out. She experimented with drugs and like did a lot of stuff. So whenever I first started like kind of getting into the scene of going out and going to parties and getting on the mic and MCing and stuff like that, I was really just chasing her, So she was kind of a catalyst to where I was in places to meet people and do things, because I was trying to go and be where she was at. And so it was crazy because even though I went to the prom, I never got her. But I remember one time. You remember how in high school on Valentine's Day they would do like the grams, and you could pay like $1 and send a card, $5 you could send a bear and flowers, all that stuff. And so I remember I sent her everything, right? Literally like everything. And at the end of school, I seen my homie Jason walking with everything I sent her. And I was like, I'm like, where'd you get that? He's like, I got that from Liz. And yeah, so like that's the kind of person she was to me. Like everything I did, like it was like she was doing something like that. So at our on prom night, it never dawned on me. Like I didn't even ask her to the prom. I didn't plan on going to my senior prom. I didn't go junior year, but I didn't plan on going there. But I went because I got to go with her. And she called me and said, we're going to your prom. I was like, bet, let's do it. My homie, I had a homie who did a lot of street stuff. So he had like this dope Tahoe. So he let me. I didn't even have a license, but I drove his Tahoe to her house, picked her up, and we went to the prom. I spilled punch on her dress. It was bad, but so she I never forget this. She wanted to leave early, and I'm like, why? Like it's prom night. Like let's kick it. Let's turn up, And so she's like, I gotta get home for curfew. And so I'm just kind of annoyed. So we get in the car, and I got this dope whip, and it has a system in it, and rims and all this stuff. So I'm trying to cruise around the parking lot, you know what I'm saying? Like do my thing and play music. And she's like, I gotta get home, I gotta get home. And so I take her home, and I'm thinking about this now as an adult. I was doing all this with no license, yo. But I take her home, all this driving with somebody else in the car. I take her home, and she gets out the car, runs in the house, and I go in with her, to talk to her dad and say, we had a great time, whatever. And she's like stumping up and down the stairs and like mad, and he's looking at me like, I'm looking at him like, I don't know what just happened. Anyways, she storms out, and I walk outside, and she's on the corner with a backpack and her prom dress on. I'm like, what you doing? And she's like, I'm going to, I don't know, some girl's house. I can't remember the name, but she's going to her friend's house, and her mom's going to take pictures of their prom dresses. I'm like, well, I'll give you a ride. She's like, no, I don't need need a ride. I'm like, all right. So I get in the car. I call my friends. We go wherever we're going to go. I think we went to go eat. And then there's a party afterwards. So we're heading to the house for the party, and I'm walking in, and my homeboy comes to the door. He's like, yo, Liz is here in the back on so-and-so's lap. I'm like, no freaking way. So I go to the back of the party, and like she's at the party after telling me she had curfew, after telling me she's going to her friend's house. She's at the party in the back on his lap, like going ham on his face. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, damn, like, is this real life, yo? And so, anyways, whenever after school, we got really, really cool. We stayed really good friends, friends with her, still friends with her parents, her brother. She ended up, remember I said like she was fast and real active. She ended up going to prison and went to prison for a little bit. And I remember when she got out, she was trying to get herself together, and I would check on her and pick her up, give her rides and stuff like that and just, try to be there for her as much as I could, because she was really going through it, and she had an addiction. So whenever you have, addiction, a lot of times it forces people to not want to be around you, and you lose friends and stuff. And so she was going through that. And I grew up in a house with people with addiction, so I knew what she was going through, so I tried to help her. Anyways, the last time I saw her, I was shooting a video for a song I have, and I was driving down 10th Street over here, or that would be over here. And so I'm driving down 10th Street, and I saw her walking down the street, walking west down 10th Street. And I'm in the middle of a video, so I'm like, man, should I stop and see if she's good? And I was like, no, I'll see her around. And I finished shooting the video. And then I was on tour, and I was in Utah on tour, and her brother had called me and told me that they actually found her body in Utah in a ditch, and they didn't know what happened or how she got there. And so, yeah, so it was just really crazy, just how, like, you think, like, I just saw her, I could have pulled over, I could have did a bunch of stuff, but I didn't. And that's Liz. We can go to the next one. The next one is another friend of mine, Ashley. Again, I remember the first time I saw her. She and I actually did a lot of music together. This was a photo we did for, I was doing a project, a little EP, and I had her come take photos for that EP. This is at my album release show for Blood is the New Black. She's on that album. And what's crazy about our story is that we were really close and really good friends. And then for a whole year we didn't speak because I had her on this song, and she thought that after she heard the song, because she came and did her part and then left, and I did my part, and so she heard it later and thought it was about her. So she was like, you had me on this song, and then you're gonna talk about me on it. But it really wasn't about her. But we ended up being really cool again, and we were going to perform at the Norman Music Festival one year, and so we had just had a rehearsal, and then the festival was the next weekend, and I went to my friend's birthday party. Woke up the next morning, and another friend of mine called and said, "You hear about Liz?" Not me, I'm not Liz. I'm sorry. Hear about Ashley? And I was like, "No, what?" And she was like, "She got into a wreck." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, where's she at? I'm gonna go see her, you know." And she was like, "Nah, like she passed away. It killed her." And so it was just it just messed me up. You know what I mean? It messed me up, and it was just really cool to see like how big she really was. You know, when she passed, and you know, she was so talented. She could rap, she could sing, she could dance, she could act. She was funny, like she was like legit everything, and so she's another woman in my life. So you can go to the next one. And so this was an EP I did about the women in my life. This was actually after Ashley passed away, but before Liz passed away. So Liz actually knew, I got to hear the songs about her, and even though like, you know, some of them weren't really. I talked about the prom on this project. You know, Liz still appreciated it and loved it. You know, and so that's why it's called Love Don't Live Here, because like, you know, you love these people, love these women. You know, you have relationships with these women, and you look up and tomorrow they're gone. You know, so. So that whole project is about you know, relationships and my relationships with these different women. So I don't remember what's next. Okay. So of course, Liz and Ashley both passed away, which brings us to death. And I could go on and on about, you know, people that I've lost, but those two are really significant in my life. And then the next ones are as well. You can go to. So this is a list of people whose deaths were I was really affected by. My cousin Tony, he was the first person as a teenager I remember dying like by like gun violence and street violence. I was probably like 12 years old. Maybe 13, and he got killed over a basketball game. So he was really tall. He got into a scuffle over a basketball game, and got in his car to leave. He's sitting in the front passenger seat, and then his girl's in the back. The dude who he got into the scuffle with walked up to the window and shot him in the head. And so when the ambulance is coming to OU, my mom and I are on the way to the hospital, and I remember we got there as the helicopter was getting there. I'll never forget, like, we met just like this to get on the elevator. And I remember he was so tall that his legs were hanging over, and I remember my mom was, you know, rubbing his head, telling him it's gonna be okay. And I just remember looking at his head and like just being afraid, because his head was like the size of a basketball. You know, it was so big from being shot. The next one is my little brother. His name was JUNIE. He was shot in the head in front of the house by a young lady, and a lot of the Blood's New Black album was about him as well. He actually so. One reason why his death is really significant because he actually got shot on 9/10/2001, and so the next day was 9/11, and I remember all of us being in the hospital and waking up in the waiting room and seeing the news, you know, and with all that going on and all this going on too, you know. The next one is one of my friends, BJ Hollywood. You can go to the next one. That's Tony. You can go to the next one. This is my brother JUNIE. This is my brother JUNIE right here. This is my little brother Promise. And so the next one is my friend BJ Hollywood. This is me performing. This is BJ right here. He was actually killed in Chisholm Creek, and not like the new development Chisholm Creek. Like not the one I'm thinking about, but the neighborhood. And so he got caught in the middle of one of our other friends who had a shootout. So he didn't carry a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't like that. Like, he was one of the people who everybody liked. He was always happy, you know, always helpful. He always had the nicest cars, the prettiest women. He was that kid, you know. And even since we were young. But I chose this picture because he was always encouraging me. Like, growing up, I was never the coolest rapper, the best rapper, none of that. And he was always, he always believed in me and encouraged me. And you can just kind of see, like, he's at the front of the stage right here while I'm performing. And whenever he passed away, I had my first show in LA. And I was talking to another friend of mine about, like, trying to decide, you know, if I should stay or go to the show in LA. And, you know, we just came to the conclusion, like BJ wants you to go and do your show, you know what I'm saying? And so I actually went and did the show and missed the funeral, so you can go to the next joint. The next one is my cousin D'Angelo. This is me, and this is D'Angelo. We're about maybe 10, 11 right there. And D'Angelo, you know, he went through a lot growing up and dealt with a lot growing up. Similar story, except for, like, he ended up going to prison when he was about 19, and he stayed in prison for about 5 or 6 years. Whenever he got out, if anybody knows anybody who's ever been locked up or in the system, like no matter what you do, if you get locked up, you get in the system, like you could be doing nothing and you're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Just because they see that you were once, you know, in trouble, you know. But so it was hard for him to, like, you know, get back into the groove of life once he got out. And I tried to help him as much as I could and be there for him. And, you know, by the time he got out, I was, like, doing shows and stuff, so I would take him with me to concerts and stuff like that. But he got out, and there was a lot of robberies on TV that were going on, like, at Family Dollars and Dollar Generals, and it was just, you know, it was like every week they were, like, trying to find this person who was doing this robbery. And so it ended up being my cousin, and so he had this high-speed chase. You can still find it on YouTube, you know, where they're chasing him from OKC to Midwest City. And whenever he got to county, you know, I never got to talk to him, and his mom talked to him and she told me he was doing good, and you know, we were gonna go up there and see him and check on him. Or the next day, that was a Thursday. That Friday, they called and said they went into his cell and he was hanging from his bed sheets. So that's him. That's my cousin D'Angelo. You can go to the next one. My other cousin is LILD. His is significant. I was out of town during this time, and what's crazy is, like, I've known him. I met him in kindergarten when we were 5. We didn't know we were related until we grew up and were adults, which is crazy. That happens a lot. I have a cousin here who I just met at a funeral of her dad, but we didn't realize that until we were adults. And he ended up going to prison, and he got out. And I remember I was in Arizona, and it was ML Martin Luther King Day. And after the parade, everybody went to 23rd on the east side. And I remember just kind of because whenever I'm out of town, I'll try to keep up with, you know, people here and what's going on and my homies and stuff like that. I remember they were saying Lil D got shot, and they were actually posting pictures on Facebook of his body at the AutoZone. And I realized, like, you know, that was my cousin, you know what I'm saying? And it messed me up, you know, and to think, like, you know, he got killed on MLK Street on MLK Day. You know, it just really like it just messed me up. And so, what's next? I'm sorry. So all those things kind of flowed into my next album, which was Everything Was Beautiful, Nothing Hurt. And this is my daughter, Sailor Rose. And, you know, I remember that photo shoot. And the reason why I put her on the cover and I titled it that because, you know, there was so much at that time, and there was so much weight on my heart that I was like, you know, I didn't want to live, you know, I didn't want to be here. And whenever her mom told me she was pregnant, like I immediately like felt life again, you know, and you know, it gave me life to know that she was coming. And so the reason why I titled it that is because I thought about everything I just told y'all, and you know, I wanted to tell her that story and tell her, you know, about those things and those people that, you know, she'll never get to meet, but also let her know like everything was beautiful, nothing hurt. You know what I'm saying? Even after everything I've seen, all this stuff, everything is beautiful, nothing hurt. You know, I'm still here. And so she's 7 now, and this is her favorite album. And like, you know, I told her I told her the story, and I'm in the car, and she's in the back seat, and I'm telling her this story about how she made me feel whenever I heard she was coming, and like and about you know her uncle who she'll never meet, and all these people, you know, who influenced it. And you know, she listened to the words and, you know, hearing her name and things like that. And I look back and she's crying, you know, and it just messed me up. So like, it kind of did what it was supposed to do, you know. And so that's, you know, like, so that was like just a big, I guess, flow into what's next. Community. So at this point, I'm kind of feeling, you know, better. And I'm like, man, like, where do I take this? You know, what's next? You know, do I keep all this for myself, or do I start to try and, you know, do more for not just me and my family, but for people around me and for the place where I grew up, which brings us to community. You can go to the next joint. So I wanted to start on the east side where I grew up, and, you know, really not only help to bring up the east side, but also educate people on the east side, you know, and educate myself, you know, on things. There are places that I used to walk to and do and go all the time that I had no idea the historical significance they had for the people around me and the people that were in my community, you know. So so I started there. You can go to the next one. And that's where we got, you know, Black Future. And Black Future was about all those things, but, you know, the reason why the title Black Future is so important, because whenever we think, people automatically assume like he's talking about like black people, like, but, you know, I was talking about the future of all people, you know, like we don't want, if you think about a future, we want a bright future, you know what I'm saying? We don't want a dark future. We want a bright future as people. And so all those things, you know, wrapped up. Yeah, definitely, you know, a future for black people, but, you know, a future for all of us. None of us wants to, you know, wake up in the morning and not have anything. We want things to be bright. So, so where do I start? I start with, you know, the history of the East Side. ROSCOE DUNJEE, this is him right here. And, you know, I've always known about, you know, DUNJEE High School. I just found out whenever one of my great uncles passed that he played football at DUNJEE. And if anybody has anything went to DUNJEE, whenever somebody from DUNJEE passes, like all of DUNJEE comes. It's like a family reunion. And it was just cool to see that so many of my family, some people in my family had so many deep roots on the East Side, and with DUNJEE High School and ROSCOE DUNJEE. He had a paper called the Black Dispatch. And with that paper, he not only like told the news of our people, but he also would use the funds to help people. And you know, for a long time, there were places and streets on the east side that you couldn't walk past and go past or live past if you were black. And you know, he would do what he could with the money to help, you know, people who dealt with those situations. So, you know, I grew up, you know, knowing about just the name DUNJEE, but not really knowing, you know, who he was. So I knew who he was, but not all that he had done. You know, I remember my mom telling me about the Black Dispatch whenever I put out my first album, and she was like, "You're like the Black Dispatch. You're telling the news of our people," you know. So I wanted to dig deeper into that. The next one is obviously the Queen, Miss CLARA LUPER. She was actually best friends with one of my grandmothers, David Lee Mukes, and my oldest sister was in her pageants as a kid, as a teenager. I remember going to her house, and you know, her telling us that, you know, stop saying and stop saying ain't and don't say huh and stuff like that, you know. And whenever I was a kid, and the last time I saw her, I hadn't seen her since I was a kid, and the last time I saw her was at is it Camps right there by Oklahoma Shirt Company? It was at Camps, and she was in a meeting. I was like, man, I don't know if she remembers who I am, you know. And I said, I'm just gonna say what's up. So I go up to her, and she remembered who I was and told me who my grandmother was too, you know. And so she's always, you know, just kind of been a big part. She taught my dad at John Marshall, you know. You know, she just like me getting to know, like now, like I'm really good friends with her daughter, and being around Miss Marilyn is, if anybody has been around, it's like being around Miss CLARA. So you can go to the next one. The next one is Ralph Ellison, of course. I grew up hearing the name Ellison, but not really even understanding, you know, how big of a figure he was in just popular culture. And it's so important. So a friend of mine found this picture of him, and I had never seen a picture of him that young before, and not let alone like with the bandage and all of that. So like I was like, that's crazy. So I sent that picture to Rachel Mosman at the Oklahoma History Center, and she traced it back to Tuskegee, and that's a photo from whenever he was at Tuskegee. And they weren't able to figure out like why he had the bandage on his head or anything like that. But whenever I did the Black Future album, Chuck D did an interview, and he was talking about me, and he was saying how you know, my writing is similar to, you know, what Woody Guthrie's writing was to his time, you know, and I really appreciate that, you know. But for me, like, you know, I aspire to be, you know, a Ralph Ellison. You know, to me, his writing is something that I really can identify with, and I just want to help tell his story, understand him more, you know. So all those things. I'm afraid of what's next. So I'm trying to wait. I'm kind of building up to something, but you can go to the next one, I think. Yeah. So all those things have been the flow of my life, and have kind of been what has brought me to this point. You know, people now, they like to, you know, ask me about food and restaurants and stuff, and to me, if it weren't for any of those things or any of those people, I wouldn't even be at this point, you know. And it's just really cool to see, like, you know, to see like where music essentially has been able to take me, you know, past music and past all those things. But childhood, women, death, and community are a continuous flow in my life, and have been. and they've led me to where I am today. So what I'm gonna do now is the next slide is, I haven't shown anybody, so you guys are the first to see it. And I was told not to show y'all, but I'm gonna do it anyways. So the next slide is my album cover for my next album coming out. Hopefully February, March, something around that time. And you can go to it. Yay. And it's, and this album is called This World Is So Fragile and Cruel, I'm Glad I Got You. I like long titles, obviously. But, you know, it's basically everything that I just talked about. And it's in this album, you know. And I'm Glad I Got You is like everything I mentioned, you know, you all, you know, everything that has been in my life, whether it's affected me in a good way or a bad way, like I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't gone through it and experienced it. So I'm glad that I have those things. I'm glad I have the people in my life. So, of course, my mom, my family. This is Douglas High School. You have CLARA LUPER, you have sit-inners, you have the Ralph Ellison picture, and then we also have Julius Jones, of course. If anybody knows about, you know, Julius, he's going through it right now, and you know, we just filed for clemency early this week, and you know, they're trying to kill him. You know what I mean? And if you haven't, like, the best way I can describe without like going into details is to watch the documentary, the docuseries, Last Offense, on his case, and you can have a better understanding about, you know, who he is and why it's so important that we get him clemency. But yeah, so this is the album cover and the album for the next one. So that's where I'm at in the flow right now. So. Do you want to do a Q&A, or is no time, bro?
We could probably do maybe one question.
Okay.
That's how much time we have. Anyone have one pressing? Yes, you're first.
What do you want to see for the East Side? What's your vision?
The question was, what is your vision? What do you want to see for the East Side?
I don't know. I really want to see. I want to see things that are in place, or whether it's a business, whether it's a structure, whether it's a, you know, whatever it is, I just want to see it be done with the community in mind. And that means that the people in the community can afford to be there, they can afford to shop there, they can afford to work, they can work there, and they can be involved, you know, and I think that's the main thing, is that, you know, whatever you do, it be for the community, with the community in mind. So.
Putting it together, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. So thanks for the sneak peek. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. We're so glad that you guys made it out today. I see a lot of new faces, and I'm just so glad that you're here. Creative Mornings is a worldwide venture. We're one chapter that is part of a global movement of connecting creative people all over the world. And these are just some of the numbers. So there's 20,000 people going to events like this all over the world every month. So you guys are a part of something really big. You can watch all of the videos from all of our speakers and any speaker anywhere in the world at CreativeMornings.com. And our global partners that power the emails that you get, and the website that we have is MailChimp and WordPress, and we're so thankful for them. And what else? I also want to thank, yes, Clover Partners, Rose Scout Treasury, our local partners. And again, can we just give Chris another woo-hoo? It's like 80% of today, and so I'm so thankful for him and what he does. And if you're interested in learning more about branding and business coaching, he is the guy to talk to for sure. And then we also always want to thank our volunteers. This is volunteer driven, so thank you to everyone. Especially to some last minute people we called in to fill in. I appreciate the volunteers because this couldn't happen without anybody. We just need so much help, and they do it so willingly. We descended this morning like a flock of something. I mean, and in 10 minutes there were chairs in here, coffee was going. It was great. So I'm super thankful for the volunteers. Make sure you check out the photography and videography guys. Now we just are in awe of his bicep every month. So thanks guys for doing this and volunteering. We really appreciate you. So say hi to Les and Christian afterwards. What else do I have, Clint?
Next month, or this
A
month.
pretty fish. Excellent. Thank you guys for coming out to Flow. Thank you, Hannah, so much for having us. High five.
Playing tomorrow at Scissortail with Tony.
Yes.
Nice.
Jabee and Tony.
Jamie and Tony tomorrow at
Yay.
Scissortail.